Hey, this is Dave Pryor. Welcome to Agile 2019. We're here in the incredibly noisy evening reception in the Leading Agile booth. Chris Papadakis and Yaton Bowens. We're going to talk about creating the right system to lead effective transformation, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And we're going to talk about what that actually means. So when we say an effective system for transformation, we're not talking about teams by themselves doing stuff. We're talking about the environment the organization has to create for them to be able to exist and thrive.
Correct. When Leading Agile talks about teams that are actually building working tested products, teams that are building working tested software, we talk about that being the system of deliveries, the system where work actually gets done. But one of the things I learned is working in that system for 15, 16, 17 years and trying to deliver while actually trying to transform it as well.
Very hard.
Those are two different systems.
It's like changing the wheels while the car's driving.
Exactly. So what we kind of want to talk about is, what system of transformation do you need to build to go along with your system of delivery so that as you're creating change in your company, it's lasting change, it's meaningful change, and it ties to the original goals of why you were in Agile in the first place.
So it's not just being agile in how we're creating the product, agile in how we run the company, so that we can keep making adjustments as we need to, as we grow, as we mature, to help support these teams.
Exactly.
Okay. And so what are some characteristics of it?
So one of the first things we talk about when doing a transformation is building the right leadership coalition, right? Building the right organizational structure that's going to support making this change. Because when we go in and do this change, we're not just adopting Agile, we're not just implementing a few practices, we're not just reskilling, but we're changing the way the company operates. And so you have to be intentional about the way you engage leadership and help them build a structure that's going to support the change they're trying to create.
Okay. So what's the biggest challenge for leadership, like when they're going through this process?
Yeah, the biggest challenge, right, is it's one thing, when we think about the system of transformation, right, I think about what are the conditions that need to be in place to start.
Okay.
And then how do we make sure those conditions stay in place throughout the transformation? Okay. So when I think about what makes it hard for leadership, it gets hard as the transformation is progressing.
Okay.
So
in what respect?
In what respect, right? So there's a lot of initial excitement around the change, right? Typically, we're invited in because there's one or a few really important problems to solve, right? So there's a lot of engagement in the beginning, and I think there's a lot of optimism that it's going to be a bit easier. Yeah, hope, always a good strategy, right? Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of hope that it's going to be.
That was nice.
Yeah, you
work that in.
Work it right in, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of hope that it's going to be easier, and I think pretty quickly you learn that this is really going to be hard. Okay. If you're really going to move from one system of delivery to another, it's a lot of hard work, and if you really want that to sustain, there's going to be a lot of obstacles that need to be removed. Okay. And I think that's where the system of transformation is how you engage leaders to address those.
Okay. Do you guys find that leadership is still, the folks that you deal with are still kind of in the mindset that I'm going to get the Agile, put Jira in here, and the teams are going to go and do their thing, and I'm still going to be the way I was? Is that still going on, or have people moved past that mindset at the leadership level?
It happens some, because today when we go into large organizations, we rarely go into an organization where they have no idea what Agile is at all. They've had some... Yeah, they've tried it. They've had some interaction with it. They sent some folks to classes. I think one of the things we find with leaders are they know they're charged with making their company agile.
Right.
They know those are tied to specific goals and objectives, but the way that they need to actually lead the transformation a lot of times is different than what they did to get successful in the first place.
Because they got there through the waterfall.
Right, they got there through waterfall. They got through having a reputation for being able to deliver. Okay. They got there through dragon slaying. They got there through inspiring, sometimes through fear. Sometimes inspiring through capability. And so now we're saying all those things that empowered you and got you to be successful, now we're changing that because we're asking you to be a leader that empowers and makes teams successful.
It's almost like changing religions.
Exactly. So, to your original question, Dave, sometimes they do want to simplify it to, if I just put in this system, if I just buy this software, if I just send you to that class. And that can get you some initial successes, but then when it gets into the real transformation, exactly, and it gets different, then that can be a place where it gets a little fearful, a little bit lack of safety. So I would say leaders, sometimes if you see that they're looking for the quick win, it's because they're being asked to lead in a different way than what got them to their current place of success.
And do you guys find that they think of transforming the company to Agile the same way they thought of delivering a product? Like, that's my new project, just make it all Agile?
Absolutely. They do look at it as a project, and it's okay, tell me the steps.
Yeah.
Give
me the Gantt chart.
What boxes do I need to check, and when am I done?
Okay. So how do you coach them out of that? I mean, let me make it an easier question. What's the biggest or most common barrier to that?
So there's a few things. I think one thing is when we go in and talk to leaders, and we're coming in as the outside consultants.
Right.
We're the guys coming in with the great war stories and the beautiful stories. It's one thing to understand the business objectives and what they're trying to do and the goals, but also understand, so how are you interpreting that? What do you think your boss is asking you to do? What do you think your boss sees as success? Coming out the other end, how do you think you're going to be measured?
Okay.
Right?
And what are you hiring Agile to fix?
Exactly. And a lot of times when we ask those questions, what leaders perceive that they're being asked to do, what leaders perceive as how they're being measured, is way different than how their leaders are actually measuring them.
Okay.
So to actually build safety and say, no, we're going to do things this way. I'm going to work with you to actually co-create a plan that's going to get us there.
Okay.
And the same things that I'm going to be measuring and sharing with you are the same things that your boss is interested in seeing improving. So it's actually kind of building that empathy that we're not just there to rubber stamp or force something on you. We're co-creating it with you.
Okay.
And the measures we're going to tell you are important are the measures that are important to your leadership as well.
So how do you get them to think about work in a different way so that they're looking at different measurements? Because that's going to be a shift as well, right? Like the things that they measure to understand whether or not this is actually sticking are different than the way it used to be.
Exactly. We tend to be really intentional in the beginning about what are some new experiences we're going to create, right? Because you're not going to shift the mindset completely up front, but what are a few key examples?
Okay.
And how do you make that real for them? And then that's how you can turn the corner from there, if you will.
So you're like teasing it a little bit or showing them, giving some exposure to what it's going to be like, and then the floor falls out underneath them and you're like, okay, yeah, now we're ready to start.
Yeah, it's that first example, taking it from a theoretical conversation to something real in practice.
Okay. When people are going through this change and they're trying to let go of all the old stuff, is there anything you can recommend that's going to make that easier for them to kind of get their heads around this new way of thinking? Other than going through the experience? I mean, if somebody's watching right now and they're thinking, yeah, we need to do this, how can I get ready for it? How can I start to prepare myself to study for it? Or to look at different things in the organization? Like, how do you create that opening so they can see things in a different way?
One of the things that we do, again, I'm going to kind of go back to that step one of building the leadership coalition, is getting the leaders in the room together. And one of the questions we ask is, why are we transforming?
That's okay, good, because that's what I was going to do. You even know why you're trying to do this.
So we give them that safe space to say, why are we even doing this? And this is a safe space for you to talk about the problems that you're having that, in other forms with your teams, you may not have the ability to have that transparency, but understand why are we transforming.
And they probably don't want to have those conversations in front of the teams because it's going to show that they haven't figured it out yet.
Exactly. We have the conversation about what does real change look like.
Okay.
So if we were to be able to come in and solve these problems, what looks and feels differently? It goes back to those experiences that Chris talks about. And then what we do is we don't go in and say we're going to solve all those problems at once.
Right.
We don't say we're going to be able to create all of those great experiences at once, but we say what's the next most important thing that we can do to give a new experience. Sometimes it is a low-hanging fruit. Sometimes it is a problem that they've been trying to solve for 2 years, and we say, let's just focus on this for the next 3 months.
So is it fair to say that, I'm going to try to draw a parallel to what teams will do. You've got a product backlog of things you're trying to produce, and you're going to have some technique for prioritization. And sometimes you're going to pick, like you said, the low-hanging fruit just to give them some momentum and sense of success. And then you're going to go after the more business value driving stuff. Okay, so you're kind of, it's almost like a parallel to what you would want to do with a team. Keep them excited and encouraged and help them move down the path.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times a lot of those problems actually fit well into our Basecamp model of prioritizing what's the most important thing to solve next, right? So a lot of times we'll get a whole list of problems, and we'll look at one and we'll say, that sounds like a team forming problem right there. Right? That sounds like if we got the right folks with the knowledge and skills on the same team, that they could work better.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's go solve that one first.
That one, and then we move on to the next one.
And then we move on to the next one, right? So a lot of times we try to align those with our model for transformation.
Okay.
Not so we're picking the easiest one, but we're picking the one that's going to get them stable, predictable,
make the most sense. Okay.
And working in smaller batch sizes and in a position to to decouple and work on more autonomously. So again, it's about they know what their problems are. Yeah. They know what the difference feels like. We're just kind of helping align those in a plan that they can execute, that they can track, that they can measure. And
so if you just talked about predictability. Do they then want to break these things down that they're trying to do into something that they're tracking the same way a new Scrum team would try to track velocity in a sprint? I mean, are you producing vertical slices of change? I don't even know if that's a fair question. I'd never thought of it before.
I haven't thought about it that way before. No, not vertical slices of change, but you're trying to do it in logical increments. Okay. Right, so that it doesn't seem overwhelming. Okay. And I think to your point earlier, right, you're keeping them engaged because you're getting those wins along the way. Yeah. And
building trust that change is possible.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And it's interesting you said that too, because the first example you gave with the metric was velocity. Yeah. Right. And a lot of times it's not how fast the team is going, but it's how much stuff are we getting to done. Right. So focusing them on the right metric. Same thing with transformation, right? No matter how fast how many things we change, how quickly, but how many things are we getting to done that are sticky, that are really lasting change?
So this is where I was going to go next, is then in the same way that you might track defects if you're producing software, the stickiness of the change, does it actually sustain itself after we move on to the next thing? That could be parallel to a defect, right?
Exactly.
That's really, so what is, this will be the last question, what is the biggest misconception that you guys find when you go into an organization among the leadership about how this is going to go?
The biggest misconception I see is right in the beginning, where they believe that we're there to lead the change for them, or do something to them, right? And it's changing that mindset. I mean, we've used a lot of the words during this conversation. You've heard us say things like co-create.
Well, the new experience thing was the thing that's like really stuck for me.
Yeah, it's that we're doing this together, right? It's not something we can do for you or to you, right? We've got to do this together, and we've got to co-create this plan. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions I see in the beginning.
Okay, and?
Yeah, for me, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions, and additionally to them actually doing the work with us, also the importance of dedicating time to the change. When you go in with the system of transformation and you talk about here are the meetings we're going to have, we're going to need to form a team to actually drive this plan, the concern becomes, well, you're taking away from my delivery time. You're taking away time that we could be building more stuff and putting more stuff in the system of delivery, that kind of thing. And so I think one of the misconceptions is if I take time away from delivery to do transformation, I'm not going to build better products. I'm not going to build better software. I'm not going to satisfy my customers.
And that's that addiction to producing.
The addiction to producing, the addiction to being able to react. Right. If I got my stripes because I was able to hear a customer problem, react, and solve it, versus being creative, versus being strategic.
And building a sustainable organization that's going to last longer.
Exactly. So I think that's the biggest thing. And so again, with those new experiences, with owning the plan, taking the time, dedicated time to transform and lead your organization in change, down the line just pays a lot of dividends into having more productive, more effective teams and more lasting change.
Cool. So, all right. Thank you guys for doing this. If the folks want to get in touch with you guys to talk about this further, what's the best way to do that?
So for me, email yaton.bowens@leadingagile.com or Twitter @Yaton. Pretty easy handle to remember.
Okay. Yaton.
Yes, like baton with a Y.
Okay. And?
Yeah, and for me...
You're not going to make them spell your last name, are you?
No, I wouldn't do that to anybody. That just wouldn't be nice. But email is the best way, right? Okay. So Chris.Papadakis.
There you go.
@LeadingAgile. And everybody knows how to spell Papadakis, so no problem.
Yeah. Okay. We'll make sure to include that in the show notes. But thank you guys very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event here. and it's not too late. You can still go out and get some food and a drink.
Awesome, Dave. Thanks for having us, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
So keep watching. We got one more tonight and a whole bunch more this week in the Leading Agile booth here at Agile 2019.